Good evening, and welcome to the Garnet Fire Informational Meeting for Tuesday, September 9th. My name is Nathan Judy, Information Officer for Interagency California Interagency Incident Management Team 5. I'll be your facilitator for tonight's meeting. Tonight you're going to hear from members of our Incident Command Team as well as the Forest Service staff. We will be taking questions this evening that you submitted online at our either online during this meeting or the ones you emailed in earlier. We need to keep this meeting pretty tight tonight, so it's only going to be 45 minutes. We're going to address as many questions as we can, but we need to make sure we get our team out to address and brief our evening firefighters. After the formal presentation, again, we'll get to those questions, as many as we can. First up, we're going to bring up our Operations Section Chief, Chad Costa.
Good evening, everybody. So overall, last night and today we had a successful day on the fire. I'd say a good day as far as growth goes, and I'll go around the fire and give you an update. So starting down in the Kings River here at the North Fork, everything's looking really good. There's been no fire spread for a few days. Crews are just mopping up and patrolling, ensuring that everything stays east of the North Fork, all the way up into Balch. And Balch Camp looks really good. Everything on the east side of Balch Camp is all holding. Again, all the crews are in there making sure it's staying in place, just mopping up. As we get into Dinky Creek, everything looks good as we travel up Dinky Creek on the east side there. Again, crews are in there, boots on the ground, just making sure that nothing gets across Dinky. As I get up on the ridge here, what we did is we took fire and grabbed the fire right here along the ridge, brought it south, and tied it into the basin fire. The basin fire was last year, so you have a lot of grass component in here. And then we have hotshot crews that are going direct, bringing the fire all the way down back into Dinky Creek. So this will be our primary line right here, and I expect all of that to hold in place. Coming up north into Fence Meadow, everything's looking really good. This was all fired yesterday and the day before. There was some slop overs and some spot fires, but everything's been ringed, and the crews told me today that everything's looking really good. I don't expect any western movement on the fire in Fence Meadow. Coming up into Nutmeg Saddle, again, this was all fired by us defensively to get out ahead of the fire and to keep the fire out of Blue Canyon. All has been very successful. The weather is helping us out. Everything's holding. Coming across into Bear Meadow, we fired that as well, all the way around Dinky Mountain, and then all the way up through Dinky Meadow, all the way up to Dinky Creek, and then to the to the McKinley Grove Road. So at the McKinley Grove Road, everything's looking really good. There was some spots over the line, but all the firefighters picked all that up. And we're looking really good all the way into Dinky Creek and up to the Grove Road. As far as the Grove Road goes, and coming across into the actual Grove, fire is pushing up to the road. The crews are actively engaged. We have a bunch of resources in there holding that road. And coming into the Grove, the fire did get into the Grove. It did come over the Grove Road, but very low intensity fire, cleaning up everything in the Grove. I saw very little issues with all the large giant sequoias, and everything's looking really good in there, just low intensity, burning all the ground litter. Coming all the way out the Grove Road, everything's looking really good. I don't expect any northern progression, and no issues in that area. We got a bunch of crews in there mopping up and patrolling all the way out to Washon. And then coming around the east side of the fire, we're heavily staffing the east side of the fire with hotshot crews. This weather, we're just going to go direct. They're in there probably 5 to 7 days, cutting that out with hand tools and making sure there's no eastern progression. I'm confident that we will hold the fire in its footprint all the way down back into the Kings River. And then all across Kings, you can see black line. There's been no growth, and I expect no southern progression on the fire. So overall, we're heavily focused in this northwest corner. I'm confident in what we have out here to keep this fire from traveling into Blue Canyon. We do have crews out in Tremor north, putting in a contingency line just in case something did happen. We are putting in contingency lines to the west, and then looking at some more contingency lines up in Bear Meadow across the north, just in case that this fire here travels north. And lastly, just keep in mind we do have another line in here on Snow Corral Road. So if we can't get this direct in the Grove, we will back up to Snow Corral and have a catcher's mitt right here to catch that fire. So overall, good day on the fire, and that's end of report.
Thanks, Chad. Next up, we have Air Operations Branch Chief John Kazee.
Good evening, John Kazee, Air Operations with Team 5. So for this fire, we have a pretty robust aircraft or amount of aircraft. We're up to 19 helicopters now, as well as fixed-wing planes that are dropping retardant, and also the super scoopers that scoop out of the lakes and drop water. There's 2 of those that are assigned to this fire. So all that is coordinated by the air attack with aerial supervision, and then we also have what's called a helicopter coordinator that provides additional aerial supervision between dropping the scoopers, the air tankers, and the helicopters. So for the last couple days, we've been primarily focusing on this end around here, and like I said, hitting it pretty hard with the aircraft, and with that, we've had some success with that. And last night we brought in night flying aircraft. So we have the Forest Service Night Helco, which is a nighttime aerial supervision that helps coordinate all the aircraft during the night hours. So that's something that we've started to ramp up and really take care of take the opportunities that nighttime flying and being able to work at night because of the fire conditions and stuff, where we can really go after it and take advantage of those. So we have the Forest Service night water dropping helicopter, as well as a couple others from our cooperators from Ventura, Orange, and LA counties, night water dropping. And like I said, all of that is well coordinated between the helicopter coordinator, and then he's the one that's talking to the folks on the ground and really taking advantage of those diminished fire activity at night, and really being able to better utilize our aircraft. So that's a great opportunity for it, and for this forest to really take advantage of every opportunity we have to try to get ahead and get a hold of this fire. Thanks.
Thanks, John. Next up, we have Fire Behavior Analyst Kevin Montoya.
Good evening. I'm going to be covering for our incident meteorologist tonight, and also talking about the current fire environment. Okay, so could I get the weather matrix, please? All right, so over the next 7 days, the temperatures are going to be gradually cooling. And with that, the big story isn't that the temperatures are cooling, it's the increase in relative humidity and what that does to our fuels on the fire. So that increase in relative humidity is going to drive down something we call the probability of ignition. It's a tool that we use on the fire ground that basically says if we threw 100 hot embers out into a dry, dead grass field, how many of them would start a new fire? And we've been up into that 80 or 90% range up until today. Today it was down in that 60% range, and over the next, I'd say 2 to 3 days, that's going to get down into 30 and then 20%. So if you threw 20 hot embers out into that grass field, or 100 embers out in that grass field, only 20 of them would start a new fire. Now, the other thing that increased relative humidity is going to do is it's going to increase the amount of moisture in our dead fuels that are on the ground. There's a lot of heavy dead and down material, lots of down branches, lots of down logs in the timber model out there, especially on that north end of the fire. Right now, those dead branches and logs that are laying on the ground, they're drier than anything that you could find in Home Depot. The dead fuel moistures for those really big logs is like 8%. So it's really, really receptive to fire. If I could get that next slide. Okay, so I wanted to talk about some of the successes that we've had on the fire. So all those big fire growth days where you've seen the big columns going out and we've had those large fire growth, those were all what we call alignment with topography. So when the fire gets to the bottom of a slope, it reacts the same way it would if you held a match upside down. All that heat and energy goes up the slope, preheats all the fuels, and really has an intense progression. And when the fire gets established at the bottom of the slope, it outmatches control measures. And so the big success that we've had over the last couple of days is our crews have been along the top of the ridges and bringing fire along the ridges along control features. When you have fire at the top of a ridge, it's like if you held the match right side up, and it's going to move down slope with that match right side up configuration until it gets to the bottom of the slope, and that's preventing those big head fire runs, those big match upside down runs. And so a lot of success with the firing operation over the last few days. If we go to the next slide. Okay, let's talk about the challenges. So on the north end of the fire, this is what the fuels look like along McKinley Grove. A lot of heavy dead down, and like I mentioned, it's very dry. But if you notice the orientation of it, there's just so much you couldn't walk through it, but it's all oriented like the way you'd want to start a campfire. There's lots of pine needles that are right next to lots of sticks. They're next to bigger branches, like 2x4 size material, and then logs. And those embers that are landing in there are getting established, and over the course of the day are growing bigger and bigger and generating lots of heat, and that's why you're seeing those large columns. Really difficult to suppress. But with the increase in that relative humidity that we're going to see over the next few days, those spots are going to be less frequent and less intense. So when I say spot, it's a new fire starting outside the line that's caused by one of those hot embers we were talking about. So with the increase in relative humidity, it's going to really increase our success, especially along that north end in the McKinley Grove area. And then the other thing that's going to increase, if we go back to the map, if the other thing that's going to increase our probability of success, especially along the north end, is with the weather, the wind direction is changing. So we're going to start having wind blowing out of the northwest, transitioning sometime in the afternoons, and that's also going to aid our firing operations because those hot embers and those spot fire embers that are coming up off the fuels are going to start to be able to blow back into themselves. So reduced amount of spotting, reduced intensity of spotting, and more of those spots being blown back inside the line. And then finally, that high relative humidity, especially at night, really something we call recovery, really high humidities at night, they're going to get to the point where the fine dead grasses that are dry and dead and those pine needles won't be able to carry fire. So we've moved into from very challenging conditions into a lot more favorable conditions, and those should continue for about the next 7, maybe even 10 days. That's it for the Fire Behavior Shop.
Thanks, Kevin. Next up from the Fresno County Sheriff's Office, we have Lieutenant Hamilton.
Good evening, Lieutenant Hamilton, Fresno County Sheriff's Office. No real changes to the evacuation map. We did add these zones on the western edge into warnings yesterday morning. That was because of the growth that happened night before last. But we are keeping a really close eye on this western edge. We're working close with operations, and if we have any additional warnings in the future, we are going to put those out as soon as we possibly can over Everbridge and social media. And so if you aren't in the Shaver Lake area or out here towards the west edge of our evacuation zones, and you have not signed up for Everbridge, please go to the fresnosheriff.org. There's a link there where you can sign up for Everbridge to get immediate evacuation updates. So we have deputy sheriffs working with our Forest Service law enforcement in the area should anything change, and we are ready to react to that. But as of now, no new changes to the orders or the warnings. Thank you. Next, I'll introduce Forest Supervisor Dean Gould.
Well, good evening. Dean Gould, the agency administrator and forest supervisor for the Sierra. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Wanted to talk about a few things that I think you'll appreciate getting the update on. First of all, welcome aboard to CIMT Team 5. They came in here leaning forward, a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of expertise. Really impressive team, and kudos to Team 10 as they were wrapping things up. They finished as strong as anyone possibly could all the way through up to 0600 this morning. They had the incident, and they took it right up to that finish line and finished very strong. Frankly, the past 36 hours, the accomplishments on this incident have really been significant, and they made a huge difference. You heard from ops as he went around. I'm not going to repeat all that. I just want to highlight a couple things, and that both Team 10 and now Team 5 are really taking advantage of. I'm going to talk about trends a little bit, just to kind of paint a picture where the incident is truly at right now. So ops talked about how well things are looking to the south and to the west, up to the northwest and west. That's where the real battles are going on. But a lot of things are trending in our favor right now that have allowed the teams to make such a substantial difference. The conditions have changed dramatically. Fire behavior talked about that. The resources coming in, both ground and air, those have both gone up. The humidity, that's going in the right direction. Temperature, that's coming down. All sorts of trends are going very positively for us. And as far as the increase in acreage per day, that has dropped dramatically as well. And those acres that are being shown for yesterday and will be for today, do know that a good portion of that is deliberate. That is the fire that we're introducing to take it back in from these lines. So we're going to make sure that you can appreciate how much of that is something that we're doing just to put into perspective when you see the net acreage for the day in terms of how many acres were consumed, how much of that frankly was intentional. So a lot of good things really going on. Over to the east, that's holding very, very well. So it's really just up here to the north and the northwest, and we have a lot of resources now, and they're still surging in. Over the next 48 hours, there's going to be a pretty dramatic increase in additional resources, because now that other incidents are starting to wrap up, we're able to draw those resources from those and bring them to the Garnet. So a lot of things trending very positively. I know there's an awful lot of interest, rightfully so, in McKinley Grove. The team is working hard. We'll be doing a feature just on that. Clearly, there's a lot of public interest. I think you're going to be really impressed by all the preparation that went into the Grove. Obviously, that's a national treasure, and we've treated it as such, and we prepared for it as such. For over a week, there's been sprinklers in there, and we've been prepping the site, pulling back a lot of the material. And it wasn't by chance that there's such a moderate effect going through the groves. It was very deliberate as a result of all the preparatory work that went into those, well ahead of the fire's progression. Got the relative humidity way up inside the groves, which made a big difference, and we absolutely saturated the ground also. So a lot of things are in play here, a lot of things that many folks may not be aware of that the team and the resources assigned have done. Very forward thinking, both fighting the fire directly as well as looking ahead, looking at those resources and infrastructure at risk, and really doing what they need to do to protect them. And another example at the Tea Kettle Experimental Range, we're studying now what the effects were there in terms of fire severity. But as an example, there are a handful of structures there we're able to get in there in advance and wrap those, and all the structures survived that. Some were historic, and so that's significant too. Had a lot of equipment there. So a lot of things going on. I would just offer in closing, you should be tremendously proud of the efforts of the teams here. And by team, I mean that as holistically as you possibly can. If you look at the shift briefs in the morning, you're going to see just about every conceivable agency you can imagine that's involved in wildland firefighting out there, and all the support with them. It is truly a team effort, and that team is definitely performing extremely well for you. So thank you again for being on this evening. All right. And
All right.
All right, good evening, everybody. Alex McBath, Incident Commander for Incident Management Team 5. As you heard, we transitioned with Incident Management Team 10 this morning at 0700. We came with a fully competent, full team with expertise in this particular area. I want I want to state that Team TID left us a fairly good package. We came in yesterday and we leaned in right away. We were up helping Team 10 deal with some logistics that they had going on because of the spread of the fire they had in the previous 2 days. And we took it this morning, and we're going to continue leaning forward and advancing the accomplishments that have already occurred. I do want to say that even though operations has kind of shown you the plan, they have a good plan, they're confident in their plan, the team is bigger than just operations and what they're doing out there. So we have other priorities other than just the operations when it comes to the whole team environment. One of those priorities is support of our resources. Those resources are extremely important to keep care of, to keep fed, and to keep good morale. Those resources are out away from base camp. A lot of the times we have folks spread around all the fire. We're standing up new camp today at China Peak. We have a camp out of Wishon. We have spike camps in numerous areas, and we want to make sure that we are providing for the comfort and care of those individuals. That includes medical, that includes laundry, that includes the multiple sleepers that we've moved up to these base camps, that includes food. As we move forward, we also want to make sure that we provide timely and accurate information. We know that folks out in the public have a lot of questions. There's a lot of values that are important to you folks, and we want to make sure we get the right information out to you. How you can help with that is to ask the questions that you need answered. That's how we know what to focus on is those questions. So I'm looking forward to seeing those questions as they come in. The outcome that we expect to see as a team on this is this fire to be fully contained, or as close to fully contained as we can get it within the next 14 days, and that all the values at risk have been protected from further damage. With that, I want to thank you, and I'll pass it back over to Nathan.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate that. So that concludes the formal presentation. We're going to go into the questions and answers, some of the ones you emailed to us today and some of the ones you submitted online. First up, I'm going to bring back up Chad Costa, our Operations Section Chief.
All right. So the first question says, I know that the lower Sequoia Grove was not severely burned, but what about the upper grove at the end of the road and the younger grove above that? So I was in there all day yesterday. Fire behavior, like you stated, was in there all day today. Everything that we saw, all the work that had been done in there, all the strong work, all the sequoia, large sequoia trees, there was hand line placed around them so that the low intensity fire can't climb the trees. There was sprinklers going everywhere so that humidity was raised. And everything that I saw looked like very low intensity. None of the giant sequoias were burning. We did have one that was broken off at the top that had some smoldering burning stuff in the top of it, and we're going to address that, getting some climbers up there to take care of that. So from what I could tell throughout the grove, I think you're going to be pretty pleased with how it looks as far as cleaning up all that dead and down that was on the forest floor. Second question is, did the multiple large burn piles on the ridge between McKinley Grove and Snow Corral Road burn? So we are heavily focused. That's our division Mike in the northwest there. We're heavily focused. We have a lot of heavy equipment, a lot of crews, a lot of firefighters. And I can't speak to every pile up there. I've seen quite a few of them. Our goal is for those not to burn. So what we do is we, again, like the large sequoia trees, we use bulldozers or hand line to put line around those. So when the fire comes through, our hope is that they do not burn. Up on the Snow Corral Road, we may be using large equipment. They're using large equipment where needed to be able to move it to the green side to where we don't expect it to burn. So it is our goal to limit that and hopefully not have any of those burned. I can't speak to whether any of them burned yet. We have heard and seen a lot about the lower part of McKinley Grove, similar question, along McKinley Grove Road. The protection provided the good results when the fire swept through. 2/3 of the giant sequoias are in the upper grove, which also burned. How did the sequoias do up there? Again, all I can tell you is that I've been in there the last couple days, and I did not see large sequoias burned or burning. What I saw was a low intensity burn throughout the forest floor below the trees. And again, very impressed with all the work that was done in there prior to the fire and entering into the grove. Would it be possible to drop fire retardant material on the sequoia canopy at McKinley Park to reduce stress on the trees? That was not necessary for us. There is a lot of trees, and it would be difficult. But one thing to keep in mind is these helicopters cannot drop or fly in smoke. So today I was up in the helicopter trying to fly the whole fire, and all of that northwest section and northern section of the fire was completely smoked out. There you couldn't see 5 feet in front of the helicopter, and we had to turn around and come out. So we will use all the effort and all the tools we have to keep the fire out of the giant sequoias, but dropping retardant or water on them, even if we wanted to, we just have not been able to get in there with helicopters. Would it be possible? Oh, sorry. Number 5. How are the big trees faring in McKinley Grove? I see the perimeter now includes them. And again, I think I've answered that throughout the last few questions. It is a very low intensity burn in there, and I think when you get in there, you'll see that many of the trees are just fine. The last question, or not the last question for me, but question 6, Alex. Do you want to answer that, or you want me to answer the other ops one that just came in? Okay. Another one came in, I think, online. Has the fire break on the east side of Camp Elowin been backburned? If so, when? What were the results? So Camp Elowin is in, if I have this right, still getting all the geographical areas up to speed, is in the northwestern side of the fire, Dinky Creek area. And from what I could tell, our fire break that we put in was just south of Camp Elowin. So I'm going to talk to the division out there, but from what I could tell looking at that and trying to answer this question, there should not be any fire in Camp Elowin. So it should be just fine. And everything just below it there in Dinky Creek, that we introduced fire into that, it's a low backing fire intensity fire through there. But I will, I need to double check on that. That's the research I could give to you right now. So for the operation or the IC question, I'll turn it over to Alex McBath.
All right, so I got a couple questions, and the first one is, does total acres burned include the back burns, and how many acres including back burns? So it does include the back burns as they're burned. The total acres are not calculated until the land aspect is actually burned. So right now we're currently at 56,795 acres, and that includes all the firing operations and the natural fire progression that has occurred. How exactly is the percentage of containment determined? We have been told for days that there is a 14% containment, but the acreage burned has increased for over 30,000 acres. And our daily operation maps are showing the same piece on the southern edge as black. The perimeter of the fire has significantly grown, but we're being told containment remains at 14%. So that's a valid question, and we have the same question. So what we are trying to accomplish today is to identify the containment that's actually out there, because we believe there's more out there than is on the map currently. We're going to get that mapped, and then we're going to recalculate what that containment is. So I suspect that we will see the containment either increase or decrease after that mapping exercise has occurred. Okay, the last question here is, what about cabins at Dinky Creek 2? So Dinky Creek cabins have not burned, but assessments are still ongoing. So as we assess all the fire activity that's been going on out there, we always tend to find a few things that weren't known before we got here. So we are in the process of assessing a lot of those areas. But from what I've been told today, the Dinky Creek cabins have been unimpacted or are still there. Thank you.
Just a quick addition. I just promised you I would talk to the boots on the ground. So Camp Elowen is fine. The fire is, as I stated, the control line's just south of it. They do have engines. He promised me they have engines in there and firefighters in there. So if something did get over the line, we'd be able to protect the camp.
Great, thanks, Chad. We had some questions for weather and fire behavior. We'll bring Kevin right back up.
All right, good evening again. Okay, so the question is, a meteorologist said the Garnet fire will burn until it snows. Is that true? Okay, short answer, no. But the longer version is the goal is to get complete containment within the next 14 days. That's the team's goal. But there's a difference between fire progression and smoke. And so our goal is to stop that fire progression. And if we're successful on the north end, we're hoping that we'll meet that goal within that next 14 days. But if you were to fly over the fire like I was able to do today, it looks like lots of tall trees, lots of timber, but in between those trees, it looks like there's chopsticks everywhere. And if you're on the ground, those aren't chopsticks. They're trees that are blown down by storms and wind and just old age. And they're between 2 feet, maybe up to 5 or 6 feet in diameter. And if they're not in an area that is close to the fire perimeter, or it's just inaccessible and not safe to put folks in there to put them out, they're going to smolder for, could be weeks, it could be a month. And so there may be areas of the fire that have those heavy deadened down logs that are going to smoke until they either get cool enough and they go out, or until they get some kind of precipitation on them. So hopefully that answers your question. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Kevin. Appreciate that, and just be aware that once they have that perimeter around that fire, you're still going to have heat sources within the fire perimeter itself. Doesn't mean it's going to escape the lines. We're going to bring back up the lieutenant and the forest supervisor for a question they had.
Good evening. The question is, will there be access plans similar to those during the rough fire for people who have property to retrieve and cabins to close? Thank you. So there's a lot of factors that go into determining whether we can get people back to check on their property or to retrieve their property. We understand that people have their personal property back there. It's important to them, and we want to help people out as much as we can. We have helped people get trailers out and other personal property, as well as cattle out of the area. So we have been working towards helping people out in this area. There is a process. There's a lot of factors. We have to look at the location that they want to go to, the property that they're retrieving, how long they're going to be in there, how many people are going in. All of this needs to be ran past operations to confirm that it is safe to go into that area, and then we will have to have an escort go in with them. So there's a lot of resources that go into this. So I would just ask that if people have these requests, please take that into consideration, and only put these requests in if it's absolutely necessary. And there is a number that people can call, which is the fire information line. It is 559-490-7329. And one of the factors as well is that there is currently a forest closure, so we have to take that into consideration, and I'll let Supervisor Gould explain that.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant. So as the lieutenant was explaining, it just takes a lot of coordination. You can imagine with the level of activity that's going on the incident, there's well over 2,000 personnel assigned now, all the aircraft, the evacuation orders, the forced closure order, all those things, a lot of traffic, heavy vehicles moving up and down those primary roads all day long and most of the night. There's a lot to consider, a lot to coordinate. That said, as the lieutenant mentioned, certainly we're sensitive to that. Those things have been done. We want to accommodate anyone who has values at risk, whether it be livestock or property, things of that nature. We want to do certainly what we can, and calling into the fire information number that he mentioned, that would be the first start. Then you're likely going to be speaking with one of the liaison officers on the team, and they will be that first point of contact. They will then be coordinating with operations. They'll be discussing with the sheriff's office to see, what are those windows, how soon, time-wise, and what it takes to actually facilitate that logistically. The lieutenant also mentioned escorts are required and so forth. So there's quite a bit to it, and it does pull resources from the fight as well. But that's all part of it. We understand that, and that is what we are here to do, to try and serve you folks as best as we possibly can to retrieve those resources. So yes, it can be done. It is being done. We just ask for your patience, and when you do speak with the liaison officers, please do let them know about time sensitivities. Certain things have different priorities, such as livestock and so forth, and in proximity to the incident. So thank you.
All right, thank you. And that concludes the meeting for tonight. We will have another virtual meeting tomorrow. So the questions that we didn't get to tonight, we'll try to answer those tomorrow. Our staff needs to go out this evening and brief the crews that are going out and working overnight. So that's what we're getting prepared for. We're going out to do that right now. Thank you for joining us today. Please join us again tomorrow. If you have those questions, please call that number. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you also have the email address you can send questions to. Thank you again. We'll see you tomorrow.